So you're a master at podcasts now, and I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing.
No, you do though. You got it. I mean, I'm looking around the setup. This is.
Speaking of, there you go, Kyle. Yeah, see, look at this. Look what I'm doing. It's fucking pathetic. Oh my God.
It's concepts with pivot. You understand just how we living. This for me is like rap religion. Open on beat cause we got this Skype. When it come to this, y'all, I can get it hype. When it come to this, yo, calm has risen. How you living, huh? Yo, how you living, pivot?
The funny thing, certainly for me, was like I didn't really want to do a podcast because, as I'm sure you're seeing, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. I mean, it's easy when you're sitting here, but chasing down guests and all that kind of stuff. After a while, like I always tell people, like it's great, but even the most popular, like the Rolodex, will run thin eventually, and it can be hard, right?
Who in your Rolodex, because you love sports, is there anyone in your Rolodex that the younger you would have gone, I can't believe I'm fucking texting so-and-so right now?
Right. Well, Charles Oakley's coming on Victory
God.
next week, and it's funny. He's promoting his book.
Of course he is.
So it's right, but it's an incoming call, and it's like, oh wow, Charles Oakley is calling. Yeah, there's been a few that these guys come in, and also too.
You're so diplomatic, by the way. I love the way you just did that, because the reality is you could have just outed 116 people and you didn't say any names, and I love it. And he went for Charles Oakley.
Charles Oakley's good. But I think a lot of times it's a little surreal having, DK. Have you seen DK Metcalf? Have you ever seen this guy in person?
He's enormous.
I mean, the fact that this guy is a wide receiver, it's hard to imagine. He's an absolute monster.
Yeah. Are you okay?
I put my water somewhere. Oh, here it is. Yeah, no, it's we've had some interesting guests, but for Victory, for example, ironically, the most popular ones are the Entourage guests, right? I mean, you and Rex came on and smashed it for Victory.
It was so fun.
And then Mike Tyson, I don't know how Mike Tyson was zooming in on mushrooms. It was a pretty surreal moment. It's definitely up there for me as one of the more surreal moments in the brief history of.
Well, imagine me. He somehow asked me to be his co-host,
right? And
I'm not making it up when I say that he is peaking on mushrooms every single time.
Right.
And he calls it, basically I want to macrodose a little bit. You want to have somebody throw me. And he just takes a handful of beautiful, pristine, white, frothy mushrooms and gobbles them down like they're candy and just starts peaking.
Well, the funny thing about that, you were, to me, the funniest part about that, because Mike is doing Mike, and like kind of the camera pans over and you seem to be the most comfortable. It was kind of an awkward interview. The one that I saw, Mike was grilling somebody with awkward questions, and then like you were just kind of there with like a big smile on your face. You didn't seem too worried about it.
I didn't seem too worried, but looking back, I should have been on mushrooms.
Right.
1,000%.
Maybe microdosed.
I'm a pussy. I am on, and in this particular case, like I just thought, and this is a good segue into you. I just thought I need to be the adult in the room,
right?
Because he's peaking out of his mind. And so if I can kind of hold it together, right. But I should have been on the same wavelength. I should have been out of my mind.
Microdosing as opposed to macrodosing.
No, yeah. It started, I should have done something and you're absolutely right. But the great thing about Mike, and one of the things that we all respond to, is he's so authentic. And he is exactly who he is. He's not pretending to be anyone else. He was, arguably one of the greatest and most ferocious fighters of all time. And he's taking a very serious look at himself, right, from every different angle. And he's very open and honest about his journey and being flawed and all these things. And so with each person, he's trying to get to who these people are. Right. Saquon Barkley could not have been more uncomfortable.
I think that was the one that I saw. That was the one where you did seem to be the adult in the room on that one. You just had a big smile on your face. You were enjoying it. You were enjoying the moment.
Well, it was interesting. It was almost like the way you were with me in a scene where I ended up hugging you and said, you want to hug it out?
Right.
And you were very uncomfortable.
Right.
That's the way he was for 2 hours.
Right. I'm not a big hugger.
Right, I know, and that's exactly why I did that. But that's where that,
Right, that's where
because as the character, I looked at you and I thought, as Ari, how would I make this guy even more comfortable? And that would be by touching him at this moment,
like hugging, like not even like a real tight hug. You know, who would have ever known that would have become what it became?
a catchphrase.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the crazy things. Is like we were just on this little set, you know, doing our thing totally under the radar, not getting ahead of ourselves, not thinking how it would be received in any way, shape, or form.
Well, hindsight is 20/20, right? But at the time, what did we really know? I mean, to take it back a step further, it was like people will say, but we were doing a pilot. I've done 8,000 pilots.
Right. I just knew, because we were surrounded by Sex and the City and The Sopranos, and HBO at the time was the only game in town where you could swear and, you know, really do a show that's edgy. So I knew that, and I knew that Chris Albrecht wanted to be in bed with Mark Wahlberg. It's a very strange subject. It's a very strange sentence.
It's a different podcast.
Yeah, it's different. That's a totally different podcast, which would get much better numbers. So I knew that. Listen, I think you and I had been in a bunch of stuff before that, you know, and we know that doing work that might possibly be interesting isn't enough.
Right.
You need to be lucky. And I never had luck like that. And part of the variable is that they really want to be in business with Wahlberg.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we kind of got lucky.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. It was not like I think a year before that I did a pilot. It was called Sam's Circus. It was for CBS. It was
everyone's seen it.
It was a World War II pilot. And I whatever, Doug will have a heart attack when I say this. It's the best pilot I've ever done.
Wow.
In terms of a pilot, it was cinematic. It was World War II, and this is coming on the heels of Band of Brothers. And when that didn't get picked up, I just said, listen, any of the logic is out the window of, well, CBS is looking for our drama, whatever it is. So for me, I didn't really put a lot of pressure on the pickup of Entourage. I was like, well, you know, que sera, sera. You do your best. And I honestly just trained myself to not be so, because you could get into that conversation. You could go down that rabbit hole where your friend who's an assistant over at this place and that place, and like the rumor mill on the pilots is a joke. I mean, you know, when that gets going. So I just, it was nice for me. It was a pleasant surprise.
Yes, and yet I just felt like also because of the subject and people's fascination with the backstage life of performers, I just knew that we had a shot.
Right. And
because we had so many, it was just, it's interesting. You know, our first scene was at Koi, and
you were eating gallons of sushi at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. and continued to until I got mercury poisoning.
You just literally, I was like, I can't. I mean, they said action and you started eating. I'm like, he can be able to keep this. What's takes? Can he do this on the sixth take? We better lock this one down. And it was early too. It was early in the morning. That's the funniest thing.
Well, it's funny because you have to commit because of continuity, and so I just knew this is the way the guy eats.
Right.
I've got to dig in. There's no other way to do it. And that in that particular one, it's interesting because there were a lot of things said that we didn't stick to. It's almost like, you know, but I kind of knew subconsciously I'm taking a victory lap with you and talking about Ask Me Who I'm Banging.
I know. Isn't that funny? When you think about what Ari Gold really ended up standing for, how out of place was that? And also you had 7 kids in the pilot, and then you had 2 kids. So all of those things.
But
changed.
all that stuff helped me because he was such a blowhard and he talked such a big game, and yet was monogamous and a great husband and all those things and worked his ass off. But he was an equal opportunity offender, right. For sure. And it's funny because I know you guys kick this around a little bit. We don't have to go too far into this, but it's like, could a group of white men walking slowly towards the camera on a billboard exist if it wasn't a documentary about storming the Capitol.
Right. Proud Boys, a Proud Boys documentary.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, times have changed for sure.
Yeah, man. I just, I wonder, and we're in these fascinating times right now.
Yeah. Would you have ever thought? I mean, look, you've been doing obviously a bunch of. You've done were you in 50 movies before Entourage?
A lot.
Did the immediate like sort of awards, accolades, and that happened seemingly overnight? Certainly from kind of my memory, did that part of it catch you off guard at all?
It totally did, because we know what it's like to not be the popular vote.
Right.
And I'd never been the popular vote. And I grew up like you with a group of actors, and your friends became
Massively
movie stars
successful, right.
way before we were working. And so we both know what it's like to have people climb over you
Right.
to get to Leo in your
course,
case.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? So like, in a weird way, as I was thinking about talking to you today, I was thinking about we have very similar paths in terms of our friends. You know what I mean? And I never really thought about too much about the fact that we were really prepped for this subject.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there were times like I'd be lying if I said there were times where I would scratch my head and look at a storyline or something and go like, I don't know, are we hitting a little too close to home here? I remember when obviously when there was the storyline about, Vince getting like almost replaced and Aquaman 2. And then there was like some whatever version of a story like that with Toby where it's, at times it can, you wonder if it's, it was close to home.
Did anyone say to you were going to do a little homage to Toby?
It wasn't put, obviously it wasn't put to me that way. In fact, it was put sort of the opposite way. Like it's just sort of inspired by kind of, rumors or stories. Cause who really knows that real story, So.
Right. But it's not like you would never go because, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as journeyman actors,
right.
We're not going to go to the creator of a hit TV show and go, look, that's my
right.
really close friend, and Vince getting passed over. Toby went through that, and I'd rather you don't do that. You would never do that.
Right. Well, I mean, especially early on. I mean, the best example is the Vince Vaughn. I don't know, in the pilot, Turtle's like, no, Kristen's, can we curse on here?
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Kristen's fucking Vince Vaughn. And I, took some kind of a shot. I read the line as it was in the script, which is Vince Vaughn, that I called him a puffy motherfucker or whatever. That's what the line was. And
right.
Now, this is the pilot. Again, I'm lucky to be there. I'm not about to walk back and say, hey, I'm not saying this joke. I think as you've got further down the road, it could be like, maybe we should lay off this or that. But certainly in the pilot, I wasn't going to go back and look at, Doug and Wahlberg and say, I'm not saying this line, but I'd be lying. I did get a little bit of the cold shoulder from Vince for a minute there, and maybe rightfully so, but
because he is puffy.
Well, I mean, because it was like you could argue that it was a shot for being a.
Bro, I'm puffy. You're puffy. We're all puffy. Puffy Combs is puffy. I mean, for the love of fucking God, Vince has got 116 problems, and that's the least of them. Listen to me. I'm going deeper. I'm digging a deeper hole for us. After all these years, you finally can look Vince Vaughn in the eyes. No, listen, I did old school with Vince, and Vince is a fucking genius, and we all love him. And I think one of the things is we've all learned to grow up and know that, like, we can't take things personally in this life. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been watching TV and someone takes a shot at me and it's the most surreal, you're alone and you're stoned and it's awkward. Right. You know what I mean?
You're like, did I just hear that?
I just had him
Why would they say that?
I just had him at my house.
Right.
Why is he literally that would happen to me? Why is he taking a shot at me?
Yep.
And you said to me one time, I'll never forget it. You said to me, like, I've seen a lot, but you get more heat than anyone I've ever known. And you know them all.
Yeah.
And you know me.
Yeah.
And so and this will sound like I'm talking shit, but you know me. And then you've seen what actually happens compared to what happens.
I've been saying it for years. I'm like, yeah, they just really seem to come after you for no real reason.
Don't go anywhere. How You Live in J Piven will be right back after we pay some bills.
When you think of champagne, you automatically think of that classic tall flute to pour it in, right? But what you didn't know is the flute is not the best way to drink champagne. Now, most world-class sommeliers actually prefer the tulip glass. It's very close to the common white wine glass because it allows the bubbles to fully develop and release the aromas. It's mind-blowing, right? Well, I bet you never heard of Blida, which is basically an oversized shot glass used by the traditional winemakers of the Champagne region. Who knew? I didn't know. Well, just as you probably never considered a wine glass or Blida for champagne, I bet you've also never heard of EPC Champagne. Now, EPC Champagne, this is the young French brand that is dusting off the aging image of champagne and promoting ethics and sustainability over profits and quality over quantity. Finally, EPC is the fastest growing brand in Paris and is winning taste tests all over every competition across the globe. EPC not only offers innovative and contemporary drinking experience, it offers champagnes with complete transparency of production, something that is very rare with any champagne brand. EPC also understands the importance of health and responsible drinking, which is why all of their wines have low sugar content. It's lower than any of the other brands. And by the way, I just want to add that the lower the sugar, the lower the hangover. They're not claiming that, but I know that personally because I do a great deal of drinking. And anyway, I digress. They even have an award-winning sugar-free Blanc de Blanc. That's amazing. And don't miss out on their brand new rosé from Provence. A rose bottle is absolutely beautiful and makes the perfect gift for any event. EPC will be available in the U.S. for the first time ever this year. But for the U.S. pre-launch, EPC offers to discover its wines before anyone else. Just follow EPC Champagne on Instagram, and you could win their full range of champagnes and their brand new rosé. Just follow EPC Champagne, and you could be the proud owner of these prestigious wines before anyone else. How cool is that? You can't lose. All you guys have to do, follow EPC Champagne on Instagram to enter. Let's get after it.
I remember one story, the David Spade. You remember the David Spade story? We were at Koi, we were somewhere, and Spade wanted to send over some bad sushi. And you're like, it looks like somebody already sent him. Looks like he sent some to himself.
Yeah.
I was like,
well,
oh my goodness, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, Spade is one of those guys who, early on, was making a living taking shots at people,
right,
in a really, he was on SNL and whatnot, and so he and his crew that's what they do. That's what they do. They roast each other.
Right.
So that was the irony. Is me, I'm not even that guy.
Right.
I don't ever do. So it's funny because I just took shots at Vince
aside from the Vince stuff,
right? But as we get older, you really, it's one of the great gifts that you have to learn, which is just like everyone's doing the best they can. Right. You know what I mean? They're going to take shots at you. Just don't even let it get to you.
I would always feel like people would almost go out of their way to take a shot at you. It was not like, oh, you happen to be in my lane and I'm going to take a shot at you because I'm looking at you. At times it would feel like, wow, that person went out of their way to take that shot.
I'm glad you said that because again, we
talked about it when it was pretty early on. I was like, what is it now? What's going on?
I'll give you the perfect example so we don't have to talk about this too much so everyone at home can go, what the fuck are they talking about? So here it is. As a cast, we're at the Aspen Comedy Festival. We're doing a Q&A. We go out to dinner afterwards and, there isn't a reservation for us. We have the entire cast of Entourage, as we're peaking as a show, walk in together to a restaurant, and there's no reservation. Okay, so we all walk into the bar. Imagine like the cast of whatever walking in together.
At that moment, it was a big thing of like the entire entourage together eating dinner.
So it was I think people were just awkward. Like, what the fuck is going on? And we were there for like an hour and a half or something. It was like it was weird. So we got seated and had our dinner, and we were, HBO was looking after us and all that kind of stuff.
Great time.
The story, and I'm not making this up. This is what the story, as it was reported, that made it everywhere. I came in late with a large group of people, about 14 people, demanded a table, got the table, refused to pay, and threw DVDs of Entourage at the entire wait staff.
That you tried to pay with DVDs. And you came in late without a reservation, and they might have even thrown a "Do you know who I am?" which you said, "Do you know who I am?" And then when the bill came, you tried to pay with Entourage DVDs, which is really, if you wanted to look into that, it's ridiculous. Why would you have extra Entourage DVDs on?
Now, in all fairness, they were DVDs of my reel that I was throwing at people.
It's your acting reel.
No, I mean, think about this. So I'm so glad you get to
remember. Yeah.
So you get to see firsthand what happens.
Yeah.
Versus like what the spin is. Now, here's my theory, and I could be wrong about it, but I think we all know Ari Golds. And they exist, and one of them is Ari Emanuel, obviously, that the character is not loosely, but very specifically based on. And there is a perception about Hollywood players, and people in positions of power, and there are a lot of them out there, and we know what it's like to be around them, and suddenly, because these people don't know me. They know the character, and so they
want you to be that character. They want you to jump into character when you see them, right?
For sure.
Like, and roast me, right?
Oh yeah. Call my wife a rusty cunt bucket, brother. We're in front of a Cinnabon.
Yeah,
I can't. That happens all the time. But to the point of what we were talking about, I think that it's. A character like that is a very easy target. Right. You know what I mean? You could take shots at him because he's the rich, white, powerful douchebag.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that I wasn't prepared to be vilified.
Right.
Because there I am. I'm not a kid. I'm 37 years old, and I've been under the radar my entire life, made a bunch of movies, but just working, doing my thing, having fun. And then suddenly the moment I become famous, the knives come out, and I was like, wow, that was fast.
It did seem,
I didn't have like 11 seconds to enjoy.
Enjoy it before they dialed up the heat pretty quick.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm not playing the victim. I'm just observing. And the good news about this entire journey is it used to really hurt me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because to be misunderstood is not fun on a global level. Right. You know what I mean? So, but then you have to grow up,
right, or
go crazy,
right.
and growing up and evolving is more fun and healthier.
How do you feel about it, as far removed as we are in terms of looking back on it, right? The character, the whole experience, right? I mean, where does it land for you? Do you have any sort of problems, or like, to me, like I always say to people, I don't know, it was such a unique experience. And also, again, we've also talked about this, a lot of times you are holed up in the office with Lloyd, and we were able to run around doing all these things. But I always say, I don't understand how, certainly from the actor standpoint, could have walked away with a sour taste in their mouth about that job, or what an incredible experience it was.
Listen, we had different experiences, and we talked a little bit about this on Victory. I remember during the movie having one of those rare times to like be in a scene with you guys where we're like walking and we, break frame together. Because usually, you guys are on a Tuesday afternoon taking a victory lap with Vince at a pool party or whatever. And I'm with the wife at therapy or yelling at Lloyd.
Right.
So I was with you guys and I was having a time of my life and we're talking sports and it's fucking amazing. And I wasn't tense and they yell action and I had no idea where I was. And you guys can multitask and I can't.
Right.
And you guys would be like, fucking Eli Manning, what's it action? Is there any roles in there for me, Vince? And I'd be like, where the fuck am I? And so I would suck, but you guys had a way of, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did you have, yes, of course you had to work your ass off, but was it a lot of fun?
It was. That's my point. For me, it was a blast. I always appreciated it, and especially nowadays when everything in Hollywood shoots somewhere else. I mean, I literally could, truthfully, put my car in neutral and roll to base camp. I didn't even have to put my car in gear. I could drive right down the hill, and every day it's like, oh, we're at Earth Cafe tomorrow, and then the second part of the day we're at the Roosevelt Pool,
and
right?
and everyone gets along.
Yeah,
and. For me and Doug Ellen, the creator of Entourage, who, by the way, is having the time of his life. We just have to say.
You want to talk about the onesies? We'll get into. Have you seen the onesie look that he's going with right now?
You know what? I check in once in a while, and to me, I'm just so happy for him.
Yeah.
Because this is, and you tell me, correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like he always wanted to be a part of the Entourage, and wanted to be, because he was a comic and was doing his thing, and he wanted to be on camera, and now he does. And now he's on camera, and it looks like he's loving it.
Honestly, he's in a great place.
Yeah.
And I it's the best place I've seen him in.
Yeah.
I think writing those scripts are, writers, it's a tough gig, man. In the office, writing and constantly the pages out and then you're being judged and it's like I think it wore on him 8 years of like delivering the scripts and all this sort of stuff, and now he kind of comes in, he has fun on the Victory podcast, he runs it's like, yo, take us in, take us out. He drops it's like he's like found his calling. He's really good on the podcast.
It feels like in a weird way you've become E, in the way that you're now the suit. Yeah. You're the one, and this may be too far, and if we don't have to talk, we can cut it out if you want, but it feels like you have to wrangle Kevin Dillon, aka Johnny Drama, to get to the fucking set. It feels like you're E now. Is that right?
It's strange. Well, what life imitating art, and it's super strange. And it's funny, Doug and I joke around. I mean, like, you could argue that I'm Doug's boss. I'm not, of course, but with regard to the podcast, I kind of am. And yes, Kevin Dillon, the wrangling of Kevin Dillon it's pretty nuts. Like it's like, Kev, you've been talking, the traffic is the traffic, right? Like, oh yeah, traffic, it's going to take, but you've been battling that traffic for years. I know you did as well. For those of us, again, that are going, what are you talking about? Jeremy and Kevin would commute from Malibu, and we all know there's one road in, one road out, one flat tire or fender bender. And you're sitting there. I mean, that's a hell of a commute.
Yeah, it is. Does it feel in a weird way that that you are the adult in the room and you've kind of become E in that way? Because everyone misunderstood E and yes. They were calling him as one of the suits.
It's weird
and you kind of become that guy.
Yeah, I've kind of become it, and it almost like, it's funny we joke with the Murphy Group that had one client, but that's sort of what it is in the sense. I started this company, and now I have employees, and now now you have investors, and now you have operating officers. Now you have all these moving parts, and it's a real business. So in that sense, I feel a little bit like I feel the most like E that I've ever felt. More so than when I was doing the show, because I was just acting. So it's
that's amazing.
It's wild.
Don't go anywhere. How You Live in J Piven will be right back after we pay some bills.
So it's really interesting. I smoke cigars all the time, and everyone, if they're in a picture or whatever, someone says, "Hey man, where'd you get those?" And I tell them, and what my favorite cigars are, and then I just thought, what, because I'm very particular on my cigars. what is the best way to find a cigar that is really right for me, that I love, that has everything that I want? I want an easy draw. There's some cigars, and I won't name any names, Cohiba, that are rolled. They're the best in the world, but they're rolled really tightly, and it's hard to pull off them. And so I want like a really easy draw. I want that rich, layered flavor. Listen, I went to the good people at Illusione. Dion over there is the man. He's a master blender, and he worked with me, and he's patient, and I'm a little bitch. I kept saying, listen, man, I want, you know what I mean, a little more of the coffee flavor. You know what I'm saying? Can we get some layers here, an easier draw, whatever? And here we are, the JPiv Robusto. I never thought it would happen. I'm living the dream. Listen, luxurycigarclub.com is where you can order them. Illusione makes them. They make them for me. It was a collaboration. I'm going to smoke one right now. If you guys send your review of the JPiv Robusto, I will send you a free stick, and we shall raise one up together. It's the least I can do. You guys send me a review and let me know what you guys think. I really want to know. And the great thing about the internet is they're brutal. So I'm going to get it, hey, be careful what you wish for. I look forward to it. I believe in these. JPiv Robusto. Thanks, you guys. Did you guys know that EPC Champagne is rated in the top 1% of wines in the world on Vivino, the Vivino app, okay? Comparatively, let me give you a little perspective. The rest of the French champagnes with similar ratings are listed for hundreds of dollars compared to EPC, which costs merely a fraction of that amount. You can do the math on that. Great champagne for a fraction of the cost. Count me in. Here's something else I think is really cool. EPC offers customized bottle etchings so you can put on your own logo. I'm going to put a little JPiv on there, or how you live in JPiv. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to start drinking. That's another problem that we don't have enough time for right now. Here's the deal. Just imagine how cool you could feel popping your own personalized bottle this summer at the pool, your beach party with your friends, your birthday party, whatever. Giving that special little someone the perfect gift on the perfect day, just a little day drinking. I'll see you there. EPC will be available in the U.S. for the first time ever, you guys. But the U.S. pre-launch, EPC offers you to discover its wines before anyone else. Just follow EPC Champagne on Instagram, and you could win their full range of champagnes and their brand new rosé. Just follow EPC Champagne, and you could be the proud owner of these prestigious wines before anyone else. How cool is that? You can't lose. All you guys have to do, follow EPC Champagne on Instagram to enter. Let's get after it. You better. As you're talking, I just had like flashbacks on moments that I can totally relate to because, and I don't know how much you've talked about this, but you flat out broke your leg in the middle of filming the movie.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know if you fully know this story, but I was on a first date and telling someone that story. And I was going like, Kevin, is fucking trying to impress Russell Wilson with his fucking skills as a football player. It's like, brother, none of us are going to impress Russell Wilson. And then he breaks his fucking femur, right? And then all of a sudden, it's revealed that she doesn't like actors and want to date actors. And I was like, why? And she goes, because there's too much drama. You guys are just too much drama. And I'm going, you don't know me. I don't want any drama. I don't want you talking shit about my boy.
Oh boy. Yeah.
At that moment, I look up and there's a fucking red-faced dude who's going, you talking shit about my boy Connolly?
The boxing trainer.
And I go,
what's he? Yeah.
I go, what's going on right now? And he goes, you talking shit about Connolly? I go, no, he goes, I heard you were saying that you were a fucking high school football player. I fucking doubt it. And then we kept going. And then I said to him,
was he eavesdropping on your entire conversation? Like clearly, right?
He seemed to know a lot about
what you were talking about.
Everything I was talking about. And then he said, you're holding everyone up with your fucking contracts with the movie. And I said to him, you're speaking of things you know not of.
Right.
And all of a sudden in my mind, I'm like, I'm speaking in iambic pentameter.
Right.
I'm speaking Shakespeare to a guy who wants to kill me right now. It was just the most surreal moment. As it turns out, there's a group of people next to me who were Israeli who recognized me. And it became this.
No drama at all there, right?
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure
just
that
was like
coming on the heels of how you don't deal with it.
It just got weirder and weirder and weirder. And so you broke your leg and then kept filming.
Right. Well, but the funny part about that story is that guy who was a trainer. That's what he was. He was a trainer. So I'd worked with him as a trainer. I don't know. I'd call him my boy. He did some weird things, that being one of them. But he calls, I guess, right after that, or whatever, that night. And he was like, yeah, Jeremy said that you almost got the movie shut down trying to impress Russell Wilson. I go, yeah. Pretty much exactly what happened. I mean, yeah, of course. So, we weren't, listen, by the way, it was a bad thing that happened that day when I broke my leg. It was bad on a lot of different levels, right? The good news is I can tell you when it's going to rain forever. And that's a true story.
Wow.
That is real. That is real. I'm like, it's going to rain. Like, you can feel the moisture. Like if a moisture comes through the air, I can feel it on my leg. So aside from the fact that it's a lingering injury, it happened on set. I knew it. I heard it. And I remember it was early. It was 10:30 in the morning. And I think like, yeah, I mean, of course I don't feel, yeah. In short, yes, I was showing off in front of more than just Russell Wilson, but you got caught up in the moment. And especially since it's in a take, you really are dialing it up, So, but yeah, I did. Yeah.
And the reason I even brought that up is because I did the exact same thing. And I know exactly, I just broke 8 ribs on set, 8.
There's nothing much they can do about that, right? Take 2 Advil and try not to cough, right? A whole lot you could do.
Well,
But it happened on a set. Did it happen?
Yeah, I was in Slovakia filming my dream project that I've finally been putting together for years. It probably was similar to your vibe where you're just throwing yourself in and you're not thinking about the reality of how vulnerable our bodies are. And you're just like, I will do anything for this take.
Right.
And all of a sudden,
Russell Wilson's throwing me a pass. I'm going to get it.
You're going to get it no matter what.
We're going.
Right.
Right.
And in my particular situation, I'm getting beaten up and there's a great stuntman there for me. Same size as me, he's a professional. I think I'm Tom Cruise. Apparently I'm Tom Arnold.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a fucking disaster. So I'm just throwing myself around, just doing everything and anything to make it all work. And from doing your own movies, you're like, you have the whole thing in your head. We got to get this done by a certain amount of time. And I know I can do it.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't want my double to do it. I want to do it.
When the reality is, it is a team effort and you got to put your ego aside and you just keep learning these lessons. And all of a sudden I'm up in the air and I land on my fist and I crack 8 ribs and the pain, it's like no other because every time you take a breath, your ribs are poking into your lungs and you can't take a breath. So anyway, I went to the oldest hospital in Slovakia, which is very similar.
State of the
art. Insane asylum, pretty much. And they said I was fine, go home. And my point is, I went back and shot 2 more days, amped up on painkillers, like you did. You know what I mean? And it's pretty surreal.
Thank God I was wearing sunglasses. Thank God it was exterior and I had sunglasses on. But I did also. I'm not gonna lie. I was embarrassed. Because it came from the right place. I don't fall off a bar stool. I was like trying to look good in the take playing football with Russell Wilson. Right. That said, I was 40 years old. That was the other silver lining was that moment for me, I went, wow, you're 40. Your tackle football days are over unless you're Tom Brady and you do that till you're 86.
Right.
But it was a thing of, it wasn't that aggressive of a play either. It just shouldn't have happened. And it was embarrassing. And it's funny if you really look, because that goes through insurance and we had the insurance claim. But if you look, it's the most underwhelming video. I don't know what I thought I was going to see my leg just to take it, because when it ends, everybody gets up except me. And I'm laying there with my face in the dirt going, broke my fucking leg. I literally said that. My fucking leg is broken. And everybody's looking at me. Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Edelman. The list goes on and on. Russell. And people are like, is he hurt? Right? Everybody knew it looked good. So there I'm like trying to get up and like limp it off. And it was so obvious, man. And yeah, I was embarrassed because we're in a location that cost production $80 gazillion. 200 cameos were there. People flew in from everywhere for those 4 days. I knew that we had to shoot.
Right.
I knew we had to shoot. I mean, there's no way around it.
Right.
Those are the last 4 days that we could have canceled. If that would have happened any other time, could have maybe shut down. But I knew I just had to. It was tough.
But you went back in, as did I, I
was trying to shake down crew members for painkillers. Nobody would give them up. I'm like, come on, bro. I know you're sitting on something there. Truthfully, the first thing I did was drink a beer. I'm like, I was in so much pain, and I was like, I knew when I took my shoe off. The first time I took that shoe off, I knew, and then sure enough, it just blew up. And then they were like on top of me, trying to like squeeze me into my shoes. And I worked that day, 2 more days, and then on the last day, I tapped out. Steven Fierberg, our DP, was like, "Okay, so we're gonna go to lunch, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna shoot the wide." And I said, "I'm not coming back. This is it. I can't. This is me tapping out. I gotta go to the hospital. I gotta go to the hospital." And then I think there was a little bit of not embarrassment. I think everybody then felt bad because I don't think people knew the extent of the injury or the extent of how much I was drinking to get through those days. But when it came back, I mean, I broke my leg in three different places. I think that then the guilt kind of switched. Everybody was like, "Fuck, man, if we would have known we were that hurt, we would have." It was a little bit of like, walk it off vibe, you know. There was one shot. You're in it too. It's funny when you watch the movie, you can see it where I really, for the most part, I was stationary, but I had to probably just move, 6 feet. I had to hit a mark. I had to come meet you. You're coming across.
I remember that.
And Kevin Dillon reached under. And that's it. First thing is they're like, cut. I'm like, what's wrong? They're like, you look like you're limping. I said, I am. I'm limping because my leg is broken in 27 different places. But Kevin Dillon actually had me by the belt to just take enough pressure off my leg where I could get to the mark. But we got away with it, but it's dicey at best.
Dylan broke his arm while we were filming playing basketball, so he knows.
Same thing in a take.
Yeah, man. And it's interesting. You just kind of, as you get older, you just realize your limitations and go, let me just take a beat here and figure this out because I don't want to.
That was a tough lesson to learn.
Yeah.
But it's funny about
it's a good lesson.
Funny about that story is that when that guy called me, I was like waiting for like I was like waiting for like, and what? Yeah, well, that's what he said. I'm like, well, yeah, he's right. Basically, that's what happened. I was like this big build up to this like story. And that was the punchline. I was like, got to agree with him on there. Yeah, I was dialing it up a few notches for Russell Wilson and also everybody watching. So because remember that day, all those guys were there. Yeah,
I mean, listen. I mean, that was one of the many incredible things about Entourage is that like, we are all such huge sports fans, and all of our heroes were showing up on a daily basis to be a part of the show, and it was just kind of incredible. So I could see how you could get carried away.
Yeah, man, it was like I said, the intention was not to like, all right, by the way, I was having fun.
Yeah,
when I should have been more conscious of the fact that, hey, man, there's a big movie, a lot of people are employed here. You have a responsibility.
Was there ever a cameo where you like literally like couldn't even speak, or you're like, what the fuck? I don't know how to even.
Yeah, I honestly was that kind of that way with Tyson. I could never really get to, because he's so engaging. I was afraid almost like to look at, to stare at
right.
Tyson. So I just, when I get starstruck, I just get quiet, right? Because it's just easier to. But if you'll see, like, there's like group pictures with Tyson, and I'm kind of like off to the side. You can just see my body riddled with anxiety, which is my only regret about Entourage that I always tell people. and that's such lightning in a bottle. Not that you would ever anticipate something that kind of unique to happen again, but I look back and so much of it was buried in anxiety. You know, I never really had a great time that I should have had at the awards shows and all that, because it's just one of those things. It's like, even like that one year I was nominated, I still didn't feel like I belonged there. Which, I mean, if ever you belong there, I mean, maybe not last year, but this year, I mean, you're nominated, you belong there. But I never just like sat back, and I just was. And now, as I've gotten older, I have a better understanding about my anxiety, and it's, when you understand that it's not as scary. But that when that happens, you don't know what's happening to you. It's a scary thing, you know. So I look back, I'm like, man, I just wish I would have just like enjoyed it a little bit more. You know?
But that's the whole thing. You're never really ready,
right?
You know, and so all you can do is continue to learn,
right?
You know,
and that's the other thing. And kind of like what you touched on earlier, I was around, right, a lot because my friends. So it's like I would know those. I knew those paparazzis that when they weren't taking pictures of me, and then all of a sudden, in what seeming for me felt like in a day.
Right.
Now that attention was on you, and I wasn't ready for it. And that's where the anxiety was like, phew. So it was.
Well, there's nothing natural about it.
Right.
So it's not like you were experiencing things that were inappropriate.
Right.
There's nothing natural about fame.
Yeah. Or there's no way you ever could really prepare yourself for it. If anything, I might have had a better view of it than somebody else, because I've seen it, you know, from its infancy to like, my God, this person's really, really very, very famous. And again, remember, this is when really the internet and social media, like I look at like how these kids navigate that. I don't know that I would have been built. Justin Bieber, like just everybody with the Instagram, just the way the pressure that these kids are under now. I don't know. I would have fared well there.
Yeah, I mean that, and the fact that he's still going and it happened, you know, I think anytime someone's famous before they become a man or a woman,
right.
it's you know, I'm shocked, I'm amazed at how Leo has been able to evolve.
Right.
You know, my brother-in-law just wrote and directed him in Don't Look
right.
Up, and so like my nieces are like, you know, at the house, and Leo's and.
He had great things to say about Adam too.
Yeah, he's the best.
One of the most probably the most collaborative.
Yeah.
Just great guy.
Yeah. He's one of the real ones. You know, he's a guy who he made that movie not because he wants to be viewed a certain way. He cares about the environment.
Right.
And he's in a position of power, and he wrote a message that he wanted to get out, and to do it is not easy. To make it original and funny and insightful.
And not,
I mean, come on, man, that's not easy.
Like they had to go big, right? You had to take it a little bit broad, or if it would have, to me, I was like, oh, I hope this movie doesn't come off kind of preachy, and it didn't to me anyway, which is why it was just kind of a fun movie to watch, a fun movie with a message, you know?
Yeah. And also, I thought Leo was amazing, also considering that on paper you go, oh, okay, nerdy scientist.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
This isn't a layup.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I know they really worked together and pulled it off, and it's genuinely funny, you know?
It's wild what Netflix has become. So, you know, Netflix is the biggest movie studio in the history of the world. Netflix. Which...
And by the way, that movie, 160 million hours watched so far. It's like the number one of all, you know, and when they want to push something, they really know how to do it. And they support their people. Yep. You know, they do, and they're loyal. You know, if they have someone like Chappelle who
stood by him.
is utilizing his freedom of speech.
Yep.
I saw him in London, and he said, "I'm bigger than Squid Game." I said, "Yes, you are, sir.
You know,
yes, you are."
You know, the business has obviously changed so much when you think about it. You know, 20 years ago or whatever it was, if your agent called you and said, "Hey, Jeremy, you're going to be on this Netflix show," they would be fired on the spot. And now it's like, why am I not on a Netflix show? Right? I mean, there was something about that where you're like, wait, what? The Netflix? I mean, the guys that you rent? I'm confused. And now they are, because what they do, because they back their artists and their creators, and they're properly funded. And
Well, I'm sure you know Scott Stuber and some of those guys over there.
Yeah.
They've been in the game forever.
Right.
And they've got great relationships with all different types of people. So they know how to navigate. And it's really, it's completely working for them. And the idea that, when they really want to be behind you, I mean, that movie came out on Christmas Eve.
I know.
I mean, I'm Jewish, so I don't have a lot to do on Christmas Eve. Let's be honest.
You watched it on Christmas Eve, right?
1,000%.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, it's wild that, and even without COVID, right? It's like, I mean, that probably is a movie I would have seen in the theater, but
Yeah.
there's some things that I don't have to go see in the theater that I could watch at home on my 90 million inch TV, right? Like a good sound system. Yeah, I'm into it. I'm into the streaming thing. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah. And then you've got Amazon who, they've got unlimited funds.
Quite literally, unlimited funds.
Yeah. And they are going to be competing
Right.
and there's a lot of great stuff coming out. I mean, like that's a great home.
Apple Films, right? I mean, it's like there's lots of different avenues. So it's good. It's good for creators, good for actors, good for everybody.
Are you a part of this indie movie that everyone's on your team is doing?
Yeah, I am a part of this indie that we're doing. We're shooting it.
That is, it's amazing, and I've never seen anyone tee it up the way Doug is every day. 37 days to go.
30.
I'm wearing a onesie.
T minus 37.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. Like, that's why I know he's in such a good place. I see him in his onesie. I'm like, well, yeah, we joke around. It's like that scene from Casino in the desert. I tell Doug, like, I get calls every day. People thinking you went, you in a onesie. People thinking you went bad shit. He's like, oh, Kevin, come on, it's performance. This is performance art. Like, he's joking around.
Right.
He just seems to be really comfortable and in a comfortable place where he is. He's happy, man. You curious about the indie film?
I am incredibly curious, and the great news about your journey is you will be documenting it.
We will be documenting.
So
we will be documenting.
we'll
be doing a companion podcast to go along with it. That's what I'll do. I'll do a companion podcast for anything, right? Like, that's always my, like, what would be a good idea?
What was it that made you start your own company where you thought, what, I want to be in?
Because it's a great way to develop intellectual property. It's a great way to develop IP. Right now, the talking heads part of it comes along, and you start going, "Oh wow, does pretty well." It keeps the lights on in a big way. But the idea was, I now have ownership of a bunch of titles and properties that I can then go try to sell as TV shows, which I've done a couple times so far. But that's really what was where it started. Because now, and also too, I mean, come on, like I always tell people this: you write a book, go drop that book off at your agents and see how long it takes your agent to read your book.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, yeah, and I get to this, it's on the holiday read list, right? So this is really a great way to it's easy to listen to, it's easy to take the content in, and you can prove concept with it, and you can prove, hey, listen, this many people, millions of people downloaded it. Those are all things that people look at, if they want to try to take it. So I'll take a podcast and go, is it possible that this could live in another form? That's generally how I approach it.
Why do you think people suddenly gravitated towards podcasts and long form interviews?
Well, I mean, I think it's, look at what Joe Rogan's done, right? I mean, the thing about Joe Rogan is that most people don't realize Joe Rogan was talking to the wall for 3 years. Nobody was listening to him. But he realized, hey, I can sit here. I can say whatever I want. I can put it out myself. And I think there's a freedom in it, right? Where it's something you can do. If you're smart and you really hustle, you can monetize it. And anybody can do it. Almost to a fault, if I'm being totally honest, right?
Yeah, it feels like everyone's going to get a podcast for the 16th birthday coming up. Right. But I think that technology is moving at the speed of light, and we're being overwhelmed by all of it, and we're losing contact with each other, and COVID, and everyone's awkward, and what's going on, and keep your distance, and pull your mask up, and we're having a lot of moments, and I think, and I could be wrong, that we miss human contact, and people listen to you guys because it's like comfort food. Oh, I miss those guys.
Right.
I want to hear them. I want to sit with them for a half hour, an hour. Right. And I think that that's one of the reasons why podcasts are blowing up. Right. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I started actually January 8th, 2020, we launched the company. And at that point, I think there was 800,000 podcasts. And now there's like well over 2 million. Right. So we talked a little bit about it. I mean, obviously you got a big high end setup here, but truthfully, you could go to Best Buy, you could buy a thing that you could clip into your iPhone. And if you're in your car or you're in a quiet space,
right,
the audio is incredible. It's something that everybody can do.
By the way, for those of you who can't see us right now, he says a high-end situation. I'm in basically a bedroom in my home.
But you got monitors.
You're next to a bongo.
Not everybody has monitors. Not everybody has monitors. You got cameras, you got lights, and you got monitors. And you got Kyle. You got Kyle.
Thank God I got Kyle.
82 hours.
If I didn't have Kyle, I would be fucking drawing a picture of you. And you know what I mean? Like, bro, I wouldn't have anything. I'm a caveman.
Right. Right. Oh no, man. Even with the company, I'll be in the studio like, why doesn't this? I'm like, well, why don't you? Because I don't know how to do that. But I feel like that should be easy. It's fun, man, and it's going to a place where it's going to be easy to convert audio content to the next form, whether it's a documentary, whatever it is, So that's really my goal. And in the meantime, the fun talking head podcasts are they pay really well, And the other funny thing too about podcasts is that, and it's a thing that can be humbling to people, and like anything else, it could have the reverse. Like your downloads are your downloads. Okay, it's not. Oh well, you don't see what I do in the locker room, and there's no intangibles. Like, and I don't know what you want me to say, but 214 people listened to your podcast last week. I'm not making that number up. It just is what it is.
I appreciate the reality of them in terms of supply and demand.
Right.
It's not what do you theorize about any of it? It's, are people connecting, and I listen, you guys know from kind of doing some live shows, and I've been on the road for a few years now, and it just feels incredible to be in front of a live audience who has been, listening to the podcast and they already, I already connect with these people, and it's kind of amazing, because you just do it in this little intimate setting,
right,
and you talk with your friends, and you have fun, and suddenly
it travels,
somehow people are listening. Yeah. So it's kind of amazing. But with you, I always felt like, and I was kind of a late bloomer to all of this. And listen, we can edit this out if you want, but
that's like the 7th time Jeremy said that. I'm gonna have to take a cut on this one. No Spade jokes, no Vince Vaughn jokes. Okay.
How You Live in J. Piven is a Cast original podcast in association with Common Enemy. Producer is Kyle Tequila. Theme song by Common. To leave a message for Jeremy, go to speakpipe.com/jpiven. Catch all new episodes of How You Live in J. Piven every Wednesday on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts.